Button. A little bit of toucan. Hello, everybody. Let's mute that. There we go. Yeah. Especially me. Hello, Render. Hello, CG Grant. Hello, Michael. Hello, Tuki. Hello, Boggle. Hello, Duck. Hello, Roderick. And thanks for joining us, everybody. But no. So we went here last week. We were getting ready to. I was knee deep in trying to get code working, and then Michael had to run off and get his kids, and we're both like, we could just, yeah, I'm too tired. Mikey sounds mute. Okay, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. You can hear me fine, but you can't hear Mikey. Love you, Mikey.
Dumpy dum. There I am. So yeah, that was an OBS thing. I just selected the same microphone and it suddenly came online. Don't know why, but there we go. Hopefully you can now hear me. And yeah.
Yep.
So all's good.
Hopefully.
Is
so,
it me?
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Or is it getting warmer? I'm warm today.
It is warmer, even though it's very overcast and looks like it's going to rain. In fact, I have the fan on right now, and I'm still itchy. Because our students may not know this, I have the stupidest allergy in history. I'm allergic to my own sweat.
Not great when summer rolls around.
Or if you're a mammal.
This is true. I mean, it's mean of me to laugh, but you just say it was funny.
It is.
You just say it was funny, so I believe I can. You
laugh. Absolutely can. I do. It's just silly. So at least like all my relatives are like, "Oh, it's great. It's summer. I'm just gonna stay in." It's like, no, I'm gonna learn an ice cube. Here's Gerard. What did I say? Gerard. Right. So it's been a couple of weeks, and we've been up to a bunch of things. I've certainly been up to a bunch of things, exploring mostly stuff for Godot 4, specifically for the sequel to Discovering Godot, which will not be called the sequel to Discovering Godot, nor will it be called Rediscovering Godot. Hello, Stan.
Even though that's a great name.
It is a great name, but you might get the same problem as the madness of King George III, which is the test audience say they wish they'd seen the first two.
Oh, dear.
It actually happened. So yeah, been doing a bunch of things. What you been doing, Mikey?
I've been doing loads of things. I've been sorting out a course ready for you guys to see. So early access, we'll get that in the next couple of hours when I've renamed all the lectures and all that sort of stuff. So
I didn't know it was that soon.
Yeah, not by me though. So more on that in a bit. But also, I have been debunking my own mind's problem with maths. I've been through a load of maths that I thought I knew. It was quite interesting. So I took a couple of mathematical tests. I'll put that in there because if I say tests, he'll say something won't you? And so I took a couple of tests to see how I was with things like vectors and bits like that, and I got 60%. So I was like, oh, I'm probably not as bad as I think I am. Then I did a bit of brushing up, and I did the proper dot product, and then I moved on to the cross product. Then I moved to simplifying radicals, just to calm down those terrorists or something. I don't know. Mathematics has such weird naming with stuff, but yeah, it was really weird. I started doing this. I didn't know how to do it, basically. I was like, but I know square roots. Why don't I know this? And then a few hours later, I knew how to do it. So it was really fulfilling being able to do mathematics that I thought I couldn't do, but could actually do. There was something in my brain blocking me doing it. And, oh, no, I can't do that. It's difficult. And it turns out it's not actually that difficult.
This is one of my personal soapboxes, and it's one that comes up a lot when you train to be a theatre teacher. One of the things you struggle with when you're trying to teach any kind of creativity is getting rid of the idea of talent. Talent is just not a very useful idea, right? Yeah, some people can have an aptitude for something. It could be slightly easier at the beginning. But research tells us that among the indicators for student success is self-belief, belief that you can actually achieve this. So if you have a class early on and you try really hard, but you get a middling to poor grade, you will internalize, I can't do this, and then you'll just not try it, right? I'm trying to figure out how to say half-assed without saying half-assed. You'll demi-butt it for the foreseeable future. It's quite a hard habit to shake, but actually you are capable. Like if a child can do this, you can do this. You might not prefer it. You might have more of an aptitude for something else, but you're not inherently a logical or a creative person. The left brain, right brain thing is a misunderstanding.
Yeah, I also think I definitely suffer from the whole someone in a position of authority, whether it's a teacher, a parent, someone you hold dear to you, has said something, even meaning well, but has ultimately, you're no good at maths, Mike, or whatever it happens to be. That's actually stayed
or you'll
with
never
me.
be a musician. Stop practicing music.
Yeah, but that might not be your goal though. You may lose out on a pastime, a hobby that you can have for the rest of your life simply because someone said one little thing that wasn't what you intended in the first place. Yep, and we've gone deep real quick. Welcome.
That's why I keep saying on these streams, learn everything for the joy of learning.
Yeah,
because the way these disciplines and ideas interact really does spark some wonderful stuff.
Yeah,
Mikey's been mathsing.
The best thing is after I'd done all that, I forgot why I was doing it in the first place, but it was fun. I had a specific goal in mind, but I didn't write that down, and then I filled up all my short-term memory with cube roots and stuff.
I remember when you and I were both making videos for another company, and I was trying to figure out like the formula to get the angle from one thing to another. I hadn't done vector mathematics in 30 years. And eventually one of the guys at the company said to me, does Godot have an angle 2 function? I'm like, yeah, just use that.
Built-in maths already done. Please don't use high-level functions.
It never even occurred to me. I was like, I don't remember. How do I? Yeah.
Yes.
So that's good. Roderick, Godot for Beginners is a very cool name. I like that name. It's not the one we have in mind, but it's a very nice name. I like it. My only downside with it is that you get everybody who consider themselves not an absolute beginner not taking the course. And I would like everybody to buy the course at quadruple price, like 5 or 6 times.
Why 5 or 6 times?
Because I would like to buy nicer groceries.
Okay. That's fine. That makes perfect sense.
I haven't had a car in a while. It'd be nice to drive around some. I don't know.
Beep. Other than like a Flintstones mobile. What's one of those red cars, yellow top that the kids sit in? You know the one I'm on about?
I do. The little pedal ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like those.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, God, for every bunny is fun. I like that. So we've been talking a little bit about expanding the working on the expanded universe of Canopy games, making more and more characters and giving them names so we can actually reuse them. So we have 2 keys in a few games. I've been working up. We've got Panda Friend in 2 Key Bubble.
Yeah.
I've got Boggle in the game I'll show you a bit later. But part of that is like, if we, and this is not guaranteed yet, but it's just an internal discussion. If we were to make a bunch of sprite sheets for these characters, we could just use them in different courses. Or just give out the sprite sheets for people's games. So I've been sitting there thinking about names for characters because we've got Tukey, we've got Panda Friend, Avery and Annie Bunny. Avery and Annie Bunny.
Annie Bunny.
Yeah. There's a bunch of those. I also thought we could have a monkey called Barolo.
Barolo monkey.
And a fish called Ketelo. It's a different kettle of fish.
It's an underwater game.
It's not the same.
Wait a minute. No one. If there's anything that I've learned from games in general, the underwater levels are never good levels.
This is somebody who's not played Subnautica.
That game is terrifying.
That game is absolutely terrifying.
I've played the first few bits, but if you play it with with like your lights off and that's your only thing in the room and headphones on. Yeah, when the first thing creeps up on you, and no.
That was my every bunny dance now for Roderick. So yeah, Mikey, I've been working on some of these sprites. So what I've done is I've made little layers in Libra Sprite, which is the FOSS version of a sprite, and I've exported them as an atlas, and I've made a cutout animation. And the idea being, if we wanted to, we could make a whole bunch of animations and then write a tool to export them into sprite sheets, and then switch out the body parts and the things and all the rest of it, and
that
then
sounds awesome.
make the next one. So would you like to see my very, very simple little test?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
All right, let me just switch to the correct project.
So are these animated with bones, you say?
Yeah, I can show folks how it's done. I have pressed the wrong button. You know what? Let me.
I should bring us back for a moment.
Wish share screen. Create a second note.
Bread characters. No, not more bread.
Bread. This is the wrong game. Quick to project list.
Ah!
There we go. No, that's the wrong one again. What am I doing?
I don't know, Jan.
Holy. Oh, I have a master's degree. Okay, quit. Sprite sheet test.
There we go.
Goodness me. All right. So if we start this up. So we have randomly selected idle animations. So every 5 seconds or so, he'll just pick an idle animation. We've got a nice little walk. It needs a little bit of work. It's a bit stiff currently. It's got to jump. And then just
that's pretty awesome.
Seconds, pick another one. That's the same one. Let's give him another 5 seconds and see if he does another one.
Yep, there you go.
So just little idle tweaks. And all we're doing is we have a skeleton 2D and a bunch of bones. And each bone has its own sprite. Now, I know you can do this with polygons with a UV texture. However, I've been unable to get that working in Godot 4, which is what I'm using right now. So I'm just not doing that right now.
Yes, the polygon UV texture technique is, I thought it was very interesting and a great way of changing out the colors of but you still need to animate it in a different way, though.
Well, you can still use the animation player, but it's it takes a bit of tweaking. It does allow you to do things like have bends in the arms and create where the joints are, and not be limited by just having one sprite.
Oh yes, that's true.
So you get less of a sort of paper cutout effect. So if you're not looking for the paper cutout effect, sure. But if you don't mind it, it works fine. But if I go on that, that's all we've got, right? We've just got a very simple walk. So I've just gone through and I've created tracks for the legs, left leg, right leg, the torso, the wings, the tail, and the head and the eye. It's based on 8-frame walks, but it's actually even simpler because it's tweening. I don't need to do most of those frames. So if I do.
That's really useful when software does that. Yeah, brilliant.
So the idea would be to use Godot's built-in image class to create a sprite sheet, potentially. Maybe not. Maybe it's too much work, but that's what I've been exploring. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
That is awesome. That's the thing, though. When we're trying out techniques in the background, sometimes it's you end up in this deep rabbit hole and you wonder whether or not it's the right thing to do for the task you're doing at the time and how you'd go about teaching it, whereabouts in a course that type of thing would appear. Is it part of a larger course? Is it actually just a small part of, or just a course by itself? Sorry. So there's loads of different variations that we constantly have on our mind as we're going through and trying to change something from what you've got in front of you to an actual course. I can, and I'm sure Jan here can testify as well, that when you end up making something, you go, oh yeah, that's really good. I reckon that'll take 10 lectures. And then you end up having 15 because you forgot that you actually need this other low-level skill that you're not sure whether or not they'll know about.
I mean, it's one of the big problems with teaching anyway, is checking your assumed knowledge, right? Especially when you're dealing with students from different education systems. But online, it's even tougher because you can't just get the feedback from the student. You can't watch their eye when you say something like angular momentum and see if they do this.
Yeah, what?
Yeah. So you have to be very careful where you pitch the course, and because you can go the other way, right? You can make something so simplistic that people, this happened with Discovering Godot. A bunch of people took the first section, the Looney Lips, and got a refund because, like, this is what we would in the UK would call a noddy course. This is so simple, I'm not going to learn anything.
Yeah.
It's like, and that's fair, but that section isn't really for you. You should be on section 2 or section 3.
Yeah. And we try our best to signpost these things as well. If you like it in
It's
the Blender course,
modular courses now.
Yeah. If you already know how to do, move around in Blender, extrude, scale, inset, all of those, what I would call basic geometric changes, then you don't need to go through the very first section of a lot of Blender courses because it's all about getting everything set up. However, saying that, a lot of the first sections of our courses contain other setup things. So if you require an add-on or something along those lines that's required during the course, like mesh tools or not mesh tools, auto bull and auto mirror, things like that, those are ones that are built into Blender. But if you don't have them on, a node wrangler is a great one. Suddenly, what I'm doing on screen won't make sense any. Yeah, node wrangler. You heard it.
Node wrangler is just the name of someone who works in Godot and Blender. That's just the title. Can I change my business title to node wrangler?
Sure.
If Elon Musk could be tech daddy, I could be node wrangler.
Wasn't it Techno King? But yeah.
I don't know. Do the bones ever move? Yes, they do move. They do move. Mostly because I'm trying to exaggerate it and give it cartoonish effect, right? So the rear wing, in order to really like give the idea that the toucan is moving and to make it look not quite childlike, but certainly toy-like, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually moving where the wing is as well as rotating it so that it's really exaggerating it. It's just the same essence as the front wing, though.
And that's a useful thing. You can reuse sprites as well, but because you've got that layering ability, you can do that. Obviously you can't turn around and things like that because there's not the
and I can show you some of the
there.
little tricks I tried. Let me go back to that project and then share my screen. Okay.
You sharing?
Sharing my screen. Boop. Okay, so if we take a look at some of these animations, and let's take a look at walk. So here on the right wing, you'll notice I've got position and rotation. I actually have for all of them just to make it simpler. But if I select the right wing, which is right, do I mean the right wing? Yeah. You can actually see the position is moving, right? I'm moving the pivot point left and right across the screen just to give it that extra movement. I'm doing the same thing with both feet, the left and the right. So I'm not just rotating. I mean, I could just rotate, but I'm allowing myself to move the whole thing. I do the same thing with the head. So if we look at mouth snap, right? I'm actually moving the whole head to give a more bird-like thing. Same thing with the tail. I'm moving the tail on various moves. So here, the both wings have moved position and so on. Which shall I show off Boggle while we're here?
Go on. Yeah, sure. I think that's great.
The name isn't called Boggle, but let me quit the project list and minimize that so we don't get weird feedback. And here we go. So this was going to be called Tukey Bricks, but then something happened, and now it's called Spooky Bricks. Let me just move that over. Oh, no, wrong one.
Ah, lots of me.
I'm having real trouble with. There we go. Okay, cool. So first thing you'll notice, we have an extra spooky mode. That's all it does. I'm guessing you guys can't hear the soundtrack or the sound effects, so that's fine. But we've been working on new assets, new power-ups, new code, new effects. It's not quite ready for prime time, but it's pretty close. Like to the point where I don't think I need to be working on this right now. I'm thinking this is like game 3 or 4 in the next Godot course that isn't the RPG project.
Yep.
Because it's not quite as simple as the first course should be, right? There's more to it than things like variables, arrays, functions, dictionaries, conditionals. We're using a lot of tile maps. We're using reflections. We're having to spawn in various power-ups. I like the little cannon I drew on Boris here. What else do we have? I like this power-up.
I like big bats and I cannot lie. It's got to be said with the rhythm as well.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to be said. We've got a few different power-ups. I'll pick up a crappy one as well. There we go.
Tiny bats.
Tiny bat's quite annoying. Are you coming, Bob? I'm also reusing Bob. Bob is in our expanded universe. But yeah, it's just a fun little game. The music's nice and creepy. The tile map's easy to use. And this is kind of game that's really satisfying to make a bunch of different levels for. Currently, I don't have that. But I'm thinking like, a vault with a bunch of gold bricks inside, or a giant penguin, or whatever it might be. The beach. Well, not a beach, but a palm tree. But you can really expand this out as much as you like. Can I have another power up, please, Bob?
I wondered why you picked the small bat. Yeah. Oh, no.
I just wanted to show one off. I've actually got pause in here, so let's just start that one again. Where is it? There it is.
There we go.
Okay. So let's go over here.
Yeah, there's subtle little things like that where on the bat, because obviously the bat itself is a capsule, if I remember correctly, in terms of its collider.
But I'm also adding velocity to, here we go, to Bob, based on where on the bat you've hit. I like this power up.
Unstoppable.
Now, this is done in Godot 4, so there are actually bugs that keep error codes that come up that make no sense. Like, it's telling me I don't need to use an await, even though I'm copying the documentation for that function. So there we go. Let's switch to.
Yeah, there are a few graphical glitches as well. Occasionally, you might see
particles, graphical glitches. I don't know if that's because they're queue freeing just as they finish, or I'm not sure what the deal is there. But yeah, that's Spooky Bricks so far, and I think that's a fun little project. So I'm just gonna put this over here.
And we're back. So that's looking really awesome, especially as a beginner game for students to get their teeth into, and in Godot 4. So, am I right in saying?
So the idea is, go on.
Am I right in saying Godot 4 Alpha 6 is only
7
now? 7. So they are making their way through the alpha numbers. I don't know how many alpha numbers there are going to be, but we'll find out.
Today. So the idea at the moment is the first module, or the first big section of the Exploring Godot, whatever we're going to call it, course. It's not going to be called Exploring Godot. Is going to be effectively a classic arcade, right? So we've got Minesweeper, we've got Spooky Bricks.
Yeah.
Maybe you put a Frogger in there, maybe put Snake. But just like to get started. And then from there, we can start moving into more complex games and teaching different things. I mean, the problem with a course like this is my go-to is to find fun games to make. But actually what I need to do is find techniques we haven't covered yet and put them in the right order.
Yeah, that can always be a big challenge, because ultimately we don't want to just create tech demos. So we want to make a compelling game, something that's interesting to play, but not just interesting to play, but interesting for you as a student to take and actually add something of your own to it, which can be challenging with some of the more simple games, because there's not much you can do initially anyway to add to certain games because they've already reached their natural end point.
Right, like Minesweeper is a very simple little maths problem. Right, there's not much you can do there. We can change the graphics and stuff, but like power-ups doesn't make sense. There's a few other things I think could go in there, a platform or infinite runner. I'm saying or because they're actually not very different. Maybe Pong, because that gives you both local multiplayer and a very simple NPC controller.
Yeah.
I don't really want to call it artificial intelligence, because it's not changing its behavior depending on the state. It's just updating where it thinks it should be.
Yes.
And then, yes, as Roderick says, MMORPG with strategic elements in ultra-realistic sim environment. with real-time economics and derivatives markets in a non-Euclidean space. No, we're not doing that.
Every beginner wants to make a MMO RPG or something ridiculously large.
I mean, it's a good sign, right? Someone plays something they love. They think, I want to make something. So I've got this
totally.
idea. How do I do it? The problem is keeping that enthusiasm. Once you learn, don't. Like, just don't do this as a small team.
Well, this
if you want to make the next, World of Warcraft or Star Wars Galaxies with EVE Online, have a couple of hundred people and a few $1 million.
Just to run the servers, let alone anything else. But this goes back to what we were saying right at the very beginning about saying you can't do something to someone. That's potentially one of those moments where, in good faith, you've said to someone, "No, that's not a good idea," and then they lose all sort of
so the trick is
encouragement for it.
Not you can't do this, but you need more people.
And
it's not to do with capability. It's understand how much work that is, right? It's like if you want to create something like GTA 7, because they're making GTA 6 apparently, and you decide you're going to make a recreation of London, and it's going to be a living city. The amount of tiny details you need to put in just the map, without any cars or AI or weather systems or anything like that, just the map, so it feels like a real city. That's a team of people.
There's a dinosaur button, apparently.
They didn't make MMO button. They added a make moo node. And when you press it, it just goes moo. We need a cow.
Do you? Do you really? Do you want a cow?
I sometimes wonder if it's more, if you want to do this right, make sure you have more than one person, because even something as comparatively simple as Stardew Valley, which was made by one person, that took how many years?
Wasn't
9
it 4?
or something?
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. I had 4 in my mind for some reason.
It might be 4, but like that's one person who knows what they're doing and is capable of creating all those assets, making something that comparatively simple, and that's still that much time.
And whether they realized it or not while they were doing it, they picked a genre of game that the tech wouldn't advance so much that their game would just look completely out of date. If they had started off doing a realistic MMORPG, and we've seen huge jumps in graphic fidelity over the years, well, that would have been out of date within like 6 months, let alone a year.
There's an interesting problem specifically with MMOs in that a good MMO is not just one style of game, right? Because people expect combat, possibly crafting, possibly housing, possibly decorating, possibly character creation, possibly mini games, possibly, a casino area, not with real money, but with in-game stuff, role playing, racing. And each of those is effectively a game in its own right.
Yeah.
So when I was playing Guild Wars 2 a few months back, and I was hanging around the desert area, and they have fun little race events on their new mounts, and that's great. But that's a team of people. Like that's one project, and it has to somehow fit in with everything else.
And sadly, a lot of these games that do come out end up being popular for only a short time. And then if your player base is not resubscribing, or there's not another form of income coming in, again, to run the server required to keep all of this up and running gets very expensive very quickly.
Or let's imagine you can do this.
Yep.
How are you going to add enough content for endgame players fast enough?
As one person.
I mean, Roderick's saying one person could do it if they have several centuries of free time. Sure. But that's assuming that everyone's still using the same operating systems.
Yeah,
or that we're still here.
Very challenging very quickly.
Yeah. So going back to the idea, I'm still struggling with what the first game in that course is going to be, because I want it to be very, very simple. And in Discovering Godot, we did Looney Lips, which is a very simple word game based on Mad Libs. And the advantage there is we don't have to worry about things like moving characters, some very simple UI elements, an array, some prompts, a couple of nodes, and we're good to go, right? I want to do something of that kind of complexity that is intriguing and fun to play. Maybe a Pac-Man style game. I don't know.
Yeah. With a toucan going round, going nom nom nom, eating up the fruit of the forest.
Mm. Yeah, Rocco, you're right on the money. I mean, it is absolutely doable, and it's something you can work on. But if you want to create your own MMO in the way that Chris Robertson is doing with Star Citizen, you have to work in the industry and pay your dues and become Chris Robertson. Which I'm not saying, you can't do this. I'm saying that's not a starting project. That's your
It's a few years
magnus
in.
opus.
Yeah.
That's your huge, that's your masterwork, is what that is. If you want to make a masterpiece, you have to master the industry.
That's why I call it masterpiece. You have to be a master to make that piece. Makes sense.
It's from the old days of the apprenticeships.
Now, we mentioned earlier that we've got a new course coming up. Do you know what this course is, Jan?
Yes.
Cool. What is it?
I could tell you, but I don't want it. No, it's is it the concept course?
It is the concept course. Yes.
So this is part of the Godot 4 action RPG projects, the Kickstarter we ran last year.
So currently we've got a couple of the sections all done by Paul. He's been working in the background, popping them all together. It's going to be called Concepting with Critter. And those that have early access, or indeed lifetime access, should be getting that over the next coming hours/days as I put everything together online for you.
And for those who don't know, Critter is not the name of a mascot. It's a free and open source graphics package.
Yes. Awesome for drawing with.
Painting and graphics. Mm-hmm.
If you bear with me a second, I might be able to... Can I do that? No, I can't do that live, otherwise it will play it. Which is a shame.
I have no idea what's happening.
Well, if I try and switch scene or set something up in OBS, it'll have a panic attack and you'll just see me setting stuff up, which is not very interesting.
Excellent.
But yeah, really excited to see what you guys make with it. And it's actually going to be the basis for all of the Blender courses as well. It's not going to be required, but as part of the Blender courses, you'll be getting... Well, not all of the Blender courses, but the ones that use the prototypes and concepts that we end up making in there. That's where we're going to start from with the Blender course. So the actual reference material we're going to use is going to be based upon that specific concept that's been created. And I think that's going to be a wonderful way. So whether it's the procedural dungeons, whether it's the buildings on top of the land, and finally Aria, our concept character, will go through that project, and then there'll be 3 distinct areas. Paul is actually done a really clever thing, the way that he's managed to do all of the sections, so it's not just doing the same techniques with different assets. He's actually approaching each one in a slightly different way, so you're actually going to learn a lot of the skills required when you're doing concept art to get a breadth of concepts, including things like 2-point perspective is one of the ones he covers for the indoor dungeons, and he came up with an awesome way in Critter of being able to make modular assets that you actually just spin around and it works. So you can make a spiral staircase as tall or as short as you want, and because it's done in orthogonal projection, it means that you can make those assets and move them around much like you would do in 3D but in 2D. And when I saw that, I was just like, this is so cool. They're gonna love it. Yeah,
I like that. So yeah, the idea with all of these is we're going to be releasing asset packs. We've actually been starting work on the first one of those, and some of these courses build on previous ones, whether they're coding module courses or graphics courses or music courses. And in those cases where, for example, you want to do combat systems in Godot 4, if we've already rigged and animated a simple character, then you get that simple character and the animation and rigging that we did in that course, so you just run with it. But if you've been following along and making changes and tweaks and making your own, you could just use what you made.
Yeah. So we want
So-
we want to be as flexible as possible. Ultimately realizing that some people just don't want to do that part of the pipeline, and that's absolutely fine. But in order to cater for that, we've had to rejig the structure in which we deliver courses so that is possible. Otherwise, if everything was lumped in just looked like one big course, not only does that feel a bit intimidating at times, but that's essentially what a bundle would cover on our site anyway. But yeah, if you don't want to do the art stuff, fine. If you don't want to do the coding stuff, fine. Perhaps you want to partner up with someone, and which is highly guaranteed, recommended, highly recommended.
So there is like this romantic notion of the lone game dev, and sure, it can be fun to make your own stuff, but working with someone else that you get on with, I mean, this is why Mikey and I ended up making a company together, is because we actually really enjoy making stuff together. And I learn a lot working with his assets, and he learns a lot making assets from my code. And between us, we can bounce ideas off each other. We can be surprised with stuff. We can, like I'll get a car for Godot Getaway, and it completely changes how I think it's going to act, but it's so much better, right? It's basically a giant game of, if you've taken the creativity for coders course, yes and, right? That's the idea of working with someone else, which is why it's good to team up in game jams. It's good to work with other people where you can just team up and learn.
Yeah, I love the concept of yes and. It's also the genesis of all scope creep.
Yes.
And
that is a thing, especially with the RPG project. Very early on, just before like an hour before we hit go live on the Kickstarter, we had to have a conversation. It's like, we should probably define the limits of this project.
Yeah.
Like, we know we're not doing multiplayer on this project. Like, we're just not doing it. We've done basic multiplayer and Godot Getaway. We'll probably do some more in the future, but that is a whole can of worms, right? Let's just make a single player game. What are the other ones? Because otherwise we're just going to keep yes-anding ourselves into oblivion.
To answer Jared's question there, no, it is for beginners. I don't think no was the correct sort of like the correct start of that. But
okay, so the question: are you expected to know or understand Critter up front to follow along?
Oh, so
and the answer is
no. You can start from a pure basics point. It gets up to speed very quickly using the basic tools that you've learnt, and it's not going to be a course where it might take you, let's say, an hour to do the drawing. Obviously, Paul's not going to be sat there drawing for an hour. We've tried to make it sort of a midway point between a speed run versus what you actually need to do. And therefore, it should be a matter of watching a particular section, going off and coming back if necessary to fill in the gaps. But it's all very iterative. Iterative. I think that's the right word. I can never. Iterative. Anyway, Adam, cut that bit out.
Are you having a stroke?
No, I'm having a jam. I'm jamming.
More like a jelly.
But it well, thank you for filling it in for the American audience. So yeah, you don't need to understand Critter up front. The pricing of these courses, I'll move on to that one as it's just popped in, and it was my name, so I picked up on it straight away. The price of the courses, it will launch at a lower price when it's out, and it will go up afterwards. I don't know what the actual price of concepting with Critter will be. It'll be somewhere between $10 and $20 on launch. I can tell you that, though.
Yeah, we try and price our courses pretty fairly, given that we don't tend to run sales very often. We had one for my birthday 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago.
And it was
fun.
It's challenging because all the market research tells us that if we say all the courses are $100 and then discount them to 10, we should get more sales because people think, oh, I'm getting a real bargain. But I find that personally, and I think Jan does as well, very dishonest to price something really, really high. This can be a hot take, by the way, that in 2 years' time, if our pricing structure is different, you can go, look, Mike, we knew you would.
I mean, this is where we are currently,
yes.
Right? The other thing we've got is there is some evidence to show that you shouldn't be doing budget prices for courses. Like $5 or $7 makes people think it's not worth the money. Whereas $20, suddenly it's serious. But If I've made a 4-hour mini course, I'm not charging you $20. Don't get me wrong, I would love the extra money. Teaching is not that high income a profession, but it's just not. I don't know. It feels dishonest, immoral.
I'll put up a little asterisk
cheap.
here.
It feels like we're cheesing it.
Well, terms and conditions apply. If it was a 4-hour course and it was a simple course, then it's likely to get a lower price. If it was a 4-hour course and it was, let's just say for arguments, incredibly math heavy, it was an advanced shader course that was 4 hours long, it would be priced accordingly. Because
right. So we don't have hard and fast guidelines. We did try that right at the beginning of the company. We were like, maybe, I don't know, $1 an hour. And then we looked at what that means. It's like, but that's not like...
It doesn't work.
These two courses might be the same length, but they're not the same prospect.
Yeah, they're not the same value to someone. One might be an introduction to... the very first introduction to Blender, I think, is absolutely free on the site. But there are things like that where you're actually covering so much and it is of value that there's a balance. But yeah, pricing will evolve over time. I'll say that. But my hot take at the moment is that...
I mean, it's a bit like the Lifetime thing. Lifetime, if you don't know, Lifetime membership is access to all current and future courses on our site.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So every course we make, every asset pack we make, if you're a Lifetime member, you get it early. You get the early access. But the price of that has to keep going up, because in 10 years, when we have 500 courses, if that's still the same price, that is insane.
Yeah.
Like, we are losing so much money on that. Like, we should just quietly bury it and hope no one remembers it's there.
Well, we were having this discussion the other day, weren't we, that at some point the actual value proposition of the Lifetime course means that probably a subscription model might appear in lieu of that, because as Jan said, the Lifetime course will always go up in price. It has to, because there's more value on there. Unless, of course, value will erode over time as well. You know, there's no point in saying, "Oh, we've got 500 courses."
Value is subjective,
yeah,
so there's always going to be there. So currently, we're trying to on the how do I put this? The kind side of the scale rather than the greedy side of the scale. We have to eat. We have to pay bills.
Yes,
I have to pay rent. You have to pay a mortgage, right? I would love to do this just for free and nothing else. Like, I'm right there with you, comrade. But the reality of the world is we do need some money coming in, but we don't want to, if I may use the language of our people, take the piss. I want to answer a couple of things people have said.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, Rocco, we try and make all our stuff opt-in. We found, especially with larger courses, making them modular means that if you're not interested in this area, or that's just too easy, or I don't want to do 3D, you don't have to buy the whole thing. But if, when the new Godot course comes out, you do want to do the whole thing, it's going to be cheaper to buy it as a bundle.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to, great. Don't pay for the bits you don't want. If you do, have a discount. CG says, do you have, or will there be a pixel art class? Dum, 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 dum. I don't know why the 3 dots are there, so I thought maybe a dramatic pause. Pixel animation course. We have talked about this a few times.
Yes, we have.
We did talk to someone about this who does a lot of pixel art, and his answer was, I could potentially be interested. And then his real life got busy and he got sick. He was like, nope, bye. Maybe later.
That's the thing. Fair. That's the thing, isn't it? So if you know someone who's great at pixel art and wants to join the Canopy
I've been
team,
playing with it, and Mikey's been saying, "Hey, are you going to do a pixel art course?"
Yeah,
like,
I have.
Haven't I? Qualified to do that yet. Like, I've been enjoying LibreSprite. It's great fun, and I would probably teach LibreSprite over ASprite just because currently all of our software is free and open source.
I think if basically it's the same premise that they can do it in any pixel art program, of which there are a few.
There are a few, but there are things in ASprite that are not in LibreSprite.
Like the onion skinning, if I remember. So if you're making an animated sprite,
because
which is obviously
one's
different.
A branch of the other, right? So yeah, I'm all about a dramatic pause too. Yes, we'd love to do a pixel art animation course. I'm not currently at a stage where I feel like I could teach that, because I've got some techniques going. I know the basics of things like layering. I know the basics of how to make a character look fun. I know the very basics of animation technique.
So when are the
but I
basics
need
of
to learn a
pixel
lot
art
more.
coming out?
But I'm aware of, for instance, the various stages of walk animation.
Yeah.
But not to the level where I'm comfortable charging you money for it yet. But as I practice it, maybe it'll be me, maybe it'll be someone else. Like, it's something we want out there. I don't just want to do a pixel art course, though. Or I don't just want us to have a pixel art course. I'd love us to have like different kinds of graphics, or a top-down course, or the rest of it. Like, eventually we want to cover as much as possible.
Yeah.
Just because these are cool techniques, and if you have some basic familiarity in them, your games can just be anything you want them to be.
I'll hold my hand up straight away and say some courses that I have done, I've just found a cool technique and I just want to play with it and play with it and play with it and play with it. And suddenly this is a course. It's like, wow, okay, cool. I remember when Eevee first came out, that just bang, it was suddenly the beginning of an environments course straight away.
Mm.
Just the volume. The one great thing I love about Eevee versus Cycles is the volumetrics. Because it's faked, it appears really, really quickly.
I mean, my go-to example is Cube Dude Kickabout, which I imagine will be making a return in the new Godot course in some form. If those of you didn't take Discovering Godot, Cube Dude Kickabout is a local multiplayer, two-person toys playing football/soccer game. So you got two little wooden figures surrounded by building blocks and teddy bears and all the rest of it, playing on this really, I mean, it looks like it's been drawn in chalk.
Yeah.
Football field, or soccer field if you're from the United States. And Michael and I, the first day we met face to face,
yeah, I remember this.
We're just talking about what we were doing. And I was working this brand new engine I didn't know anything about, and I was teaching myself. And he was working on rigging and making a character called Cube Dude for a Blender course. I was like, and I think it was Michael says, so how easy is it to get from Blender to Godot? I was like, I have no idea. Let's find out.
4 hours later.
Like, do you have any animations? Like, great. Could you make me a pitch? Yeah. And 4 hours later, we had a game, and there was a bunch of us over at this guy's house. And for the next 3 hours, everyone just was playing this game.
It was amazing how such a simple
we should
game.
make stuff more often.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fantastic. And then the next thing was Godot Getaway, wasn't it? Yep. Which I absolutely loved doing. The electro swing, the themes.
The cops and robbers,
the
multiplayer stuff, the hide and seek.
That was an exercise in scope.
The idea you had of, well, what if you can't arrest them unless your siren's on?
Yeah.
So you can sneak up on the criminal, but you need to announce your presence to actually win.
Oh,
yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the great advantages I was going to say one of the great advantages is we could like teach how to make a sprite sheet, but you might not get every animation you need from that sprite sheet. So, you know, if you're making a Smash Brothers game and you've got a platform game sprite sheet, there's going to be some things missing.
There's going to be some challenges getting that. Although there's no reason why you can't have a fundamental sprite sheet and then an extended one for turnarounds or whatever it happens to be. And of course,
no real reason why we can't provide the rigged cutout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's loads and loads of options. There's also, and it can be one of the rubbish ways of doing pixel art is to generate an actual 3D character and just render them at a lower resolution. That doesn't work. But what I have seen work, and it looks incredible. It looks very much like, I can't remember the game. So you've got FTL, and they made another strategy game.
Oh yeah, with the giant mechs.
Yes, that game. Well,
yeah.
But that game is absolutely fantastic, and it's got that sort of shaded style. With shaders, you can actually make your 3D objects look like they are actual pixel art without having the horrible artifacting that rendering a 3D image basically to a 2D plane at a lower resolution. That just never works properly. It just comes out horrible. But yeah, this is one of the reasons why I've dived deep into maths in the last couple of weeks, is because I want to look at shaders in far more detail. And unfortunately, I just didn't have the math chops to understand half of it.
I mean, I found this when I was going through GD Quest, of an amazing shaders course. but I simply don't have the background maths because I haven't done maths since I was 16, and we didn't learn a lot of the techniques that are in there. Like I have never learned dot product. It just never came up. I've never heard of radians until I was 40. I don't know what they are. So it was one of those courses where in order to understand it, I kind of need to catch up on my background information. And that's not a fault in their course or with their teaching. It's just, it's a complex enough subject that you do kind of need that background.
It goes back to the assumed knowledge. What I would love to be able to do, and one of my goals is to make a shaders course, but assuming no knowledge. Now, there are obviously...
Would you make it in Blender or in Godot or what?
Well, Blender actually has the open shader language, so that is possible.
That's why I'm
we
asking.
could. I don't like relying on websites because they can disappear, but Shader Toy's been around for quite a few years, so that's another place where... So shadertoy.com, you can literally type in shader code on the right-hand side and off you go. So there's lots of options, and or indeed in Godot. We could do a shader course within Godot itself. So the ideas behind it all and the maths behind it all is pretty much the same. It's just the syntax changes depending on what underlying engine is being used. But I really believe that you don't need to know. This is the problem. In order to get to the point through formal education where you can understand shader code, you actually have to do like a couple of years of maths before you can start going into that level.
And even just to understand the terms, like when they start saying things like, use a step or a smooth step, it's like, I'm fine with not knowing that that's in there, but what is that?
Throw me money. Throw me.
Throw money. Throw money. I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a bunch of classic games I'd like to put in that early Godot course as well. I don't kind of want to do too many, but Super Bomberman would be a fun local multiplayer one.
I'm gonna throw out a real quick hot take again with like the beginning of the course. There's no fundamental reason, and I want to reach out to our audience here as well, why there can't be a base course and there might be add-ons where you teach extra small courses in a particular genre, perhaps. Thoughts?
Makes bundling a little trickier?
Potentially, yeah. I don't know. It just came into my mind. Wanted to air it.
Typically, we've been doing one project per section or one project per module.
Yes.
Right? I don't know if this is module 1, Two Key Sweeper, module 2, Spooky Bricks, module 3, whatever, right? Or Classic Arcade is module 1. Now, the advantage of the first way is it's really easy just to simplify it, right? You are learning one big thing per section, which from a curriculum development point of view is
really
sensible.
Good. Yeah.
The advantage of the second way is value for money. But you're also wading through a lot of stuff just to make the one game you want to make.
Potentially.
So it's 6 of one, 2 3s of the other.
And I think at that stage we really need to prototype a course to try and work out what the weighting is. I've got a great photo of a wardrobe in my house. I've plastered it with the first potential 4 sections, I thought it was, and it turned out that these ideas, I wrote each idea down on a post-it, as you would, concept, and I plastered it everywhere. And I was like, why are you doing that? And the reason for doing that is so you can see the bias and weighting that I've put. And it turned out that section 1 would have been like, or lecture 1 or whatever it would happen to be, would have ended up being like 5 hours long. And that's too long for an intro. So then I picked up all these and rearranged them and tried to then come up with ideas to actually do with those techniques. But again, that's not bulletproof because you can't be exclusive. You've got to be inclusive because you're going to use some of the techniques you've learnt prior later on, and that can be really challenging not to go over the same technique in such detail. Although sometimes it's also necessary because if someone's new to a course, you need to repeat the content. That is how people can learn. And but then again, you could argue that it's almost.
This is why it's a good idea with the Blender course to have the first section free. Like, here are the basics. You know, if you're just taking one of the courses for the first time, you don't know how to move things around and all the rest of it. Go look at the free videos. Like, quick little thing. Don't pay us any money for it. Great. I think the same kind of thing will probably have to happen with Godot, just because we do want people to feel reasonably comfortable. People need to know what a scene is, what a node is, what a function is, you know, how signals work.
Yeah. I mean that fundamentally, it depends. Yes, very true. I think fundamentally, we want a base of knowledge being there available, so that our courses, we can always refer people back to those bits. So we're not spending that time covering a very basic topic, like encoding what a variable is or what extruding is in Blender. Or,
I mean, what we really want is to get to a stage where people don't say things like, I could never do that.
Yeah.
Whether it's maths or 3D art or whatever it is. I mean, Mikey and I had a meeting with somebody a few weeks back about our company. And she didn't know anything about what we did. So, you know, can you show us anything? So I showed her the Minesweeper thing. It's like, you wrote this? So I showed her the code. It's like, it's about 140 lines of code. I could never do that. I don't have a maths degree. Like, well, yeah, I have a drama education degree. Like, it's doable.
Yeah.
Once you get your mind in the right state, the amount of people who tell me things like, I can't program, so I use Visual Script. It's like, but visual scripting is programming. Or
shader nodes is programming. It's just it's in visual form.
If it can be done, you can do it.
There was a great example that I was playing with. Sorry that I've never released it. I should release stuff even if it's in crap form. Perhaps that's
crap form.
Yeah, crap form, as in it's not really presented.
Oh, okay.
It's just
you haven't
raw.
Been using the medium of feces.
No.
Okay, good.
Monkey paint picture with own doo-doo. No, so a few it must have been about 2 years ago now, I was playing with open shader language and visual shading, and it was just in Blender, and I made a checkerboard. And I thought that's a really simple thing to do, but it's quite straightforward, and the code is also quite straightforward as well. And then you could see how it was done in different formats, but essentially it's the same thing underlying. I might go and find that file, and that might be my next YouTube video.
This is one of the reasons why whenever we're making content, we're always encouraging you to expand upon it, tweak it, how else we should do it. In education, this is called metacognition, thinking about your own thinking. And that's where the real deep learning happens. It's take this technique, figure out what you can do with it. How else can you use it? Where else have you seen it? How could it be used differently? And I've really enjoyed things like Godot Getaway, Jelly did his Jelly Getaway where everything was candies. And it was great, right? The cars were little jelly beans. Yeah. It was fantastic. And other people did the same kind of things. Seeing people like take the original idea and then just run with it and make it theirs is awesome. And you learn so much that way.
It's phenomenal with some of the students.
Coming up to the hour, so we should do the traditional question. We are. Mikey, do you want to ask the traditional coming up to the hour question?
No, that's definitely your ballpark. Bat. So
okay, so Spooky Bricks happened because I thought it'd be funnier to have a bat in a bat and ball game be a bat. And then I decided to make the ball Bob the Skull. And then once that was done, we were kind of on a roll. Does anyone have any questions, concerns, comments, interpretive dances, jingles, pictures of trees? That was brilliant. Adam, don't clip that. Silence while Mikey does a tree.
How did you know what I was doing?
Everyone knows what you're doing. I'm a tree, I'm a tree, I'm a tree, I'm a tree. I'm a tree living that good life. I'm a tree living that good. Can't see it. Just pictures of bread. I have been enjoying your pictures of bread.
They've been fantastic. Yeah.
It's totally awesome.
No, but that's one of those things. It seems a bit quirky, silly at first, but it becomes a theme. And it actually drives what you're doing and makes you continue doing things and experimenting.
Quirky Silly is great. I mean, we started off with, can I make an online game with 2 cars? And then we put a ball into it. We started playing very bad Rocket League. And then I was like, okay, can we make some city assets? Oh, these are really cool. Wait, can we procedurally generate this?
Bang.
And then it just expanded. Next thing you know, it became your traditional cops and robbers procedure generated city 3D online multiplayer game.
Yeah. Scope creep, anyone?
We learned a lot about scope creep in that game. And then we released a Kickstarter for a very small and simple project for the action RPG in Godot 4.
Yeah, but we learned our lessons
Although
well.
it's actually pretty manageable considering what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Is it possible that T-Rexes look like giant Tukis? Yes. Some Tyrannosauruses, not Tyrannosaurus Rex, but I'm thinking specifically of Tyrannosaurus in China, have been found with fossils of feathers. How many feathers, what kind, what color were they covered? I don't know. I'm not a paleontologist. But yes, it is technically possible that T-Rexes were giant death toucans. Also, if you don't know about these animals or you haven't played Ark, you should check out terror birds. That's actually what they're called. They were a giant carnivorous two-legged flappy bird kind of thing, basically death emus in South America, who got wiped out when they migrated north and met saber-toothed tigers.
Oops.
Tweety Bie and Sylvester was pretty brutal in the OG days. Good question. Any others?
Oh, dear.
Learn everything. Then you too can be a giant smart butt.
Jan knows everything about history ever, including dinosaurs.
You'll make it up and no one will know.
It's fine.
Yeah. It was a terrible time when I was teaching theater history in the States to some undergrads. And it was Columbus Day, and we were dealing with the Renaissance. And, you know, the discovery of the expansion into the Americas is a big part of that era. So I start talking about how in 1492, as we all know, Christopher Columbus sailed to find America on his three boats, the Tinky Winky, the Dipsy, and the Lala, and all of my students just looked very confused and angry.
We paid how much for this?
A terror bird is basically a shoe bill. A terror bird is basically a... Imagine a chicken who's found a shotgun and seen Colonel Sanders.
And now we have our next character. Thank you. Yep. Oh man, I wish I could. Go ahead off and draw that real quick, but I can't remember what chickens look like in their uncooked form.
Too many jokes. Not enough. No. Cut. All right. I think we are pretty much there.
Yeah, I think we have. So look out for an announcement, guys, over on the Discord when we pop that live for you guys with early access and lifetime. Concepting course will be there for you to start going through. Jan will have more stuffed animals next week to entertain the children of the show. And thank you for watching. Ready. Yes, it's been great.
Bye.
Terror
bird, my bread's waddling. Battle ducks.
Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye. Press it. Press it. Press it.
There we go.